Good afternoon. My name is Mike Sinatus, and I'm a student with Liberty University. Today, I'll be providing a group leading report for Class 511. So, on 10 February at about 2 p.m., I facilitated a group, and the topic was about how to manage stress at the latter part of one's career or this stage in their lives. The meeting lasted about an hour and 5 minutes. And in the front of the class, I had a projector, and on that projector, I had the agenda for the meeting. I had chairs and long tables, which I arranged in a U-shaped pattern. In the open end of those chairs and the table faced the projector. It was familiar to the topic that I used was very familiar for most of the individuals, but most of them were were familiar with how to manage stress in early on in their career, but there are no classes, if you will, for managing stress later on in one's career. So they were very interested in the topic. So when I started talking about it, when I asked questions about the particular topic, no one had objections to it. Um, the meeting started out light and very pleasant because most of us were familiar with each other. And then there were a couple of the individuals that were kind of class clowns, if you will, which could have impeded on the progress of the meeting. But I used a lot of I used some skills, such as I used the inflection in my voice, used some assertiveness, and of course the ground rules that I had established prior to starting the meeting. Um, the group members were very engaged in the topics, to a point where I had to constantly steer them or cut them off, if you will, from making long comments. Um, I was required to draw out two of the members because they were kind of quiet. So I would use my eye contact as I scanned the room. One of them in particular was nodding his head in agreement with one of the speakers. So to draw him out, I asked him specifically what he thought about why did he agree with what was being said at the time. So that he provided a pretty lengthy response as if he was waiting for a chance to get something out. So I will say that another example would be when one of the individuals uh, basically dominated the conversation and wanted to object to some things that were being said by other members several times. I had to steer him away from doing that so that he didn't come out so that the meeting didn't get too confrontational, although it was lighthearted. But some people did could have felt that he was kind of forcing them or cornering them in a way that they couldn't really truly express themselves. So I had to use some skill there to manage that situation so it didn't get too bad. What I will say for my self assessment is that I'm used to leading groups, so this wasn't too much of a challenge for me. But I will say that although I'm used to leading groups, I was just a little bit nervous in the beginning because I find it hard oftentimes to stop talking about my personal experiences, and it was difficult for me to make it into a group discussion versus a lecture because lectures are easier for me. Um, so what I would say is that the group was very informative. A lot of individuals provided their input. A lot of great tools came out. Stress management tools came out. I was able to take some time out and learn to listen. And I paraphrased several things that the members were saying just to show understanding and a level of empathy for what they had gone through at the time, and a level of understanding of how they managed the stress that they were going through at the time. So, for in the future, I would say that I will remain much calmer in these types of settings instead of using some of those military ways that I've picked up throughout the last 19 years of my life or of my career. So this definitely concludes this review